Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Innovation Podcast, your source for all things innovation. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Amir Fassihi on the line. He's founder and CEO over at Amir Life. Amir, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adam. I'm excited to be here with you today.
All right, so we got a big topic today, and I'm excited to get into this with you because you're the guy for this. So the need for innovation for preterm infants and what Amnion is doing about that. So I do want to get into that topic, but before we do, let's go a little bit further into the company. Tell us a little bit more about Amnion Life, please.
Okay, Amnion Life LLC is a early startup stage medical device company. What we're trying to innovate and create devices for are for very preterm and extreme preterm infants. For those of you who are not familiar with what preterm or premature infants are, we all know that pregnancy is about 40 weeks, and then infants, when they get to 36 weeks and they're born at 36 weeks or so, they're relatively safe, they're relatively developed. But when they're born earlier, 36 weeks or below, sometimes 32 weeks below, sometimes even 28 weeks, 24 weeks below, these are infants rely on medical devices in order to survive. They're not developed enough to live in the outside world. And what we're doing is try to create medical devices to better adapt them to this outside world that they're not used to.
That's awesome. And I think it's also a great transition. So let's just dive into today's topic. So the need for innovations for preterm infants and what Amnion Life plans on doing with this. So where do you want to start? Okay. This is a big topic.
So let me ask you, if I ask you, what do you think per WHO is the number one cause of infant mortality across the world? You would probably think of, maybe infectious disease, something that is killing,
that's what came to my mind, just so you know. I was thinking totally like some type of disease or something else.
Most people are surprised to find out that being born preterm is the number one cause of death of infants. And more than 1 million infants die each year across the world because when they're born, they don't have access to the gold standard medical device, which was the mother's womb. In the mother's womb, these infants are in a world-class medical device that is warm, keeps them warm and temperature regulated, keeps them hydrated, gives them oxygenation and nutrition until they are developed enough for the outside world. And this is in all mammalian species. So when these preterm infants are born early, they don't have temperature regulation mechanism. They don't have water. They need water, fluid management. They need oxygenation, and they need nutrition. These four. And if we don't have enough, we don't provide the adequate medical devices to provide those, then these infants can suffer. They can have brain injuries that lead to lifelong disabilities, intellectual disabilities, to cerebral palsy. It's the number one cause of cerebral palsy in society. Negative outcome that occurs during preterm care. And, per CDC in the United States is the number one cause of infant mortality. So what we want to do is look and say, okay, what's happening here? Why is there such a shortcoming? Why is there such an unmet need? And this happened to for me, I'm an MD, but I'm a radiologist, and we had a family member who had an extreme preterm little girl and was born, and she developed neurological and ocular injuries. And it was really devastating. It was really hard for a mother, father, a family, that child to go through life knowing that we could have done something, in early few weeks that prevented this for the rest of their life. And when we looked at this 2 years ago, we realized that, look, these infants are, one, they're in a fluid environment. That makes a huge difference because when they're born, a big percentage of them, anywhere from 20 to even 70% of them, when they're in extreme preterm, very preterm, they have such a drop in temperature that their core temperature drops more than a degree Celsius. And we know when in all mammalian species, when we have a core temperature drop, it's a hypothermic shock to the system. And being born is one thing. Being born and having hypothermic shock is really a big sudden insult to the normal development of that organ. So, and this sudden drop within the first hour of life for these infants has been associated with increased chance of death within 72 hours, increased chance of sepsis, increased chance of brain injuries, lung injuries. And what we decided to do, we said, okay, let's create devices that we can take care of these: temperature regulation, hydration, food, nutrition, and oxygenation. So three devices we're working on. There's really two. One is called AmnioBed Golden Hour, and the other one is an artificial placenta. And together they create the artificial womb for these infants. What AmnioBed does is that it creates the amniotic sac environment, the fluid environment. Now, this time it's going to be synthetic amniotic fluid, but it's going to have the same mineralized and electrolyte content as the amniotic fluid in the mother, which we know what it is. And the temperature is going to remain stable. So we know that fluid management of temperature is much more efficient than air, keeping somebody warm through air. So if somebody's having hypothermic shock, you can get them much quicker putting them in a jacuzzi than putting blankets around them, because that's immediate warming up that person. And that's what we're going to be doing in infants. So what we're doing is that we created AmnioBed where when infant is born. As soon as they're born, they go into a controlled bath environment where they're partially submerged for temperature regulation, and then they get the fluid from the bath. They actually absorb fluid from the synthetic amniotic fluid, which happens in the womb as well. And then later, the second one is the artificial placenta, which will complete this. And so as soon as the umbilical cord is cut, instead of just leaving it closed or putting a catheter in there, we're going to actually hook it up to the oxygenation and nutrition machine. And it's been shown in preterm lambs that you can do that, and you can keep the fetal circulation going, and these lambs can thrive for weeks and months until term, which they're served. And that's the goal, to keep these infants really healthy and growing at a more normal pace than what's happening today.
Wow, what an amazing idea, what an amazing innovation, and what amazing direction. I mean, you'll be able to save many lives with a product like this. I know you mentioned you're an early startup stage company. I mean, how far along are you with this? Are you raising any funds, accepting investors? I mean, give us a little bit more on the structure and how we can make all this a reality, because this is amazing.
Yeah, so this is the hardest part. The hardest part of creating a vision, of bringing a vision like this to life, is the funding. So, luckily we've come a long way. 3.5 years into it, we've raised $1.5 million in research and development. We've come a long way in this whole process. I realized that this is going to be a long-term project. I need to have our own in-house engineering team, but we can't. We need to have it in a place that really makes sense cost-wise for a startup that bootstrapping it. And we found great engineers in Serbia. And I have family relations also in Serbia. So we created a engineering facility in Serbia with the money. We did crowdfunding campaigns last year, and we're doing another one now, and we really, really appreciate help. We need help. It's an equity crowdfunding campaign. It's not like Kickstarter where you get the product in the future. You actually get equity in the company in return for the investment. And we're relying on the $500 investments, $1,000 investments, even $100 investments right now to really get us to the stage where we have the first in-human clinical trials. And this is the big risk that's being taken off the table for VC, which we're talking to. They said, this is great, but we want to see the first in-human. And we've been working on this for 4 years now. We think about 12 months away from that. We are down to a second prototype. We got all the parts, that we needed to change. We changed. So the next 12 months is really testing the hardware, the software, the multiple, about 150 parts in the device itself. We have in-house when the software needs to be debugged. We have designed the hardware. Everything needs to be tested in order to prove that it's safe for one-term infants at least, for usability to go in there first. Once we do show safety on term infants, then we go younger, 32-weeker, then we go to 28-weeker in the second or third safety study. These are usually about 15 infants each. And at that point, then We're ready for market in some countries that only require safety, European countries like that. But then for FDA, we need to do a larger clinical trial. That will take another additional 12 months. So we're really halfway through. We think 4 years into it. We have another 2 to 4 years to go in clinical trials and FDA approvals until we get to the market for this.
Wow, what an amazing journey, and bravo. I know what you're doing is not easy. 4 years in, putting the, brick by brick on the wall to build what's going to eventually save lives. So this is amazing. So Amir, if somebody does want to learn more about the company or to participate in the crowdfunding or to connect with you and your team, as investors, what's the best way for them to get involved?
Okay. I'm going to start with the crowdfunding because that's right now the most important thing on my mind, and we really need to, until October, raise the amount of money for us to continue. Go to wefunder.com. We Funder. It's kind of like Kickstarter, but for equity crowdfunding. When you go there, you're going to type in Amnion Life. We're one of the 50, 60 companies that they're raising equity crowdfunding right now. Or you can do wefunder.com/amnion.life. Or you can just click on amnion.life, and they'll take us to our website. And from there, you can go to the invest page. You can look at our videos. We have models of our prototype there and videos about describing the prototype, the features of the device. I can't get into the features. Adam, there's so many different features of this device. But some of them are really cool, like in the later versions when you have 24 hours of staying the infant's dome closes and becomes a soundproof, where the infant can then have an audio video feed with the mother and maybe the mother's heartbeat and not hear the ICU sound and just hear what the mom's doing as is naturally occurring, the conversations in the womb. Then you have like stool detections in the fluid, and as soon as the infant defecates, you can have automatic flushing. Then we've actually expanded our patents. We have patents here in the U.S. and China. But we expanded the patent to include adult-sized patients, potentially for severe burn patients or ICU patients that can have refund medical benefits for being in a fluid environment for short term, as opposed to the current standard.
Wow.
So there's a lot of things on the website they can check out and see. And if there are any investors, angel investors who are out there looking for projects that would mission matters, as this podcast, you can contact me. My information is on the website. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to discuss the fundraisers, raising goals and activities and what we've done and what we're planning to do.
And what's the web address again? Let's make sure that we leave that a couple times.
The website address?
Yes.
Amnion, AMNION, like the amniotic fluid, .life, LIFE. And the crowdfunding is at WeFunder, WeFunder, FUNDER.com/amnion.life again.
Fantastic. Well, Amir, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about what you're doing over at Amnion Life. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store, and if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Innovation, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments in the video. I'd love to know what kind of projects and things that you're working on. And Amir, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you, Adam. It was my pleasure.